Let's begin our discussion of rehearsal strategies by talking about a concept that will apply throughout the course and through a variety of topics, the idea of macro, micro, macro. The fundamental process of rehearsals is often called macro, micro, macro, or big, small, big. And what we mean by this is starting with the macro, the big picture or overview, and then working into the micro, the details, working on those details, and then coming back out again to the macro, to the big picture. In rehearsal, this might take the shape, for example, of the macro is running a section, and then the micro is breaking it down into melody and accompaniment, working on that micro level. It's not a very micro level, but working on those details a little bit, then putting the melody and accompaniment back together and coming back out again to the macro. This idea of macro to macro doesn't always just have to be one level. We can think of it in terms of levels of magnification. So we might zoom into 2 times magnification to get a level of detail. That might be melody and accompaniment. Perhaps that's not enough to get the detail that we need or to find the root of the problem. We might have to go to 4 times magnification. That might mean just the violins on the melody or just the bass line on the accompaniment. We might have to go to 8 times magnification. That might be just the first violins and the lower octave. That might be just the tubas on the downbeats in the accompaniment. And then we can come back out again to all the violins, all the melody, and everybody back out to the macro, evaluating as we go. This idea of zooming in and zooming out, you can also think about it in terms of, well, that it's all relative. It's almost like fractal geometry. And what we mean by fractal geometry is that in this sort of geometry, when we're looking at something, let's say it's a globe, the way it looks, the topography is the same if we're looking at it from the big picture at the whole globe, or if we zoom into a portion of that globe, it looks the same. The topography looks identical. We might zoom in even more, and the level of detail looks the same. And so if we apply that to our macro, micro, macro in rehearsals, well, what that means is that the relationship between this and this, macro, micro, macro, is the same from this to this to this, or from this to this to this. It's all just relative to each other. So this to this might be everybody playing, melody and accompaniment to the micro, back to everybody playing. But the macro could just as easily be starting with the melody and then zooming into just people have the upper octave, then zooming back out again to the macro. It might be over here, which is just starting with the second violins and zooming into the second violins in measure 4 and then back out to the second violins. And that's all part of a spectrum that we can go to come out to the ultimate macro, the ultimate overview of everyone playing. Another way of looking at this is as if how a mechanic might fix an engine. So let's say we have that situation. Doesn't matter what the engine powers. It's an engine. And it's making some noise. It's rattling. So we're evaluating it as the mechanic at the macro level. This is making some noise, and we can't fix it without popping the hood and going to the micro level. And that's part of the issue also. If we can fix everything from the macro level, we could. And we can run a section and say, that's not good, that needs to change. Sometimes it will change, but sometimes it doesn't. Just like the mechanic might just be able to shake the box and say, all right, stop rattling. It'll work. But usually just saying to the engine, stop rattling, doesn't do it. You have to pop the hood and go into the micro level. So this might mean popping the hood, and let's see, there's this part here. Let's see this part I'm suspicious about. Oh, look, this part is not secure. It's rattling back and forth, so we can tighten it in. Okay, put that back in the engine. Okay, we've worked on the micro level. Put the hood back on. Come back to the macro level, start the engine, see if it rattles. If it's still rattling, well, we might have to go into more detail. So we turn the engine off, pop the hood, take that part out. Okay, that seems to be okay. Oh, there's a part that fits inside. Oh, that seems to be rattling where that connects. So we might replace something. We might tighten that. Okay, then put that back in together as a part. Okay, that part seems fine. Good, so we've come out a little bit of that micro and evaluated it. Put the part back in, test see, okay, it seems secure in there. We've come out a little bit, we've assessed. Put the hood back on, come all the way back out to the macro, start the engine, and see if it's fixed. That's the basic process that we're doing in rehearsals. This macro, micro, macro process is something that applies not just to rehearsing a specific piece. It also can refer to the arch and the shape of an entire rehearsal from start to finish, and also from the first rehearsal leading up to the last rehearsal right before the concert. Macro, micro, macro. It's a concept we're going to talk about in other videos too.